And so yeah, I'm really excited about this book because it's snowing. It is snowing right now. I love the snow so much. Hi friends, my name is Joel and welcome back to my booktube channel. Today I'm going to be covering my 21 anticipated reads, and by 21 I mean 42 because I could not keep myself contained. As well, this is only the anticipated reads for the first 6 months because, again, trying to condense down an anticipated reads list is the work of the devil. I do not get how people can do this and can be okay with leaving so many books out. Like, there are just so many books that deserve hype. So I'm going to be doing a video now, and I'm going to be doing a video in July covering the anticipated reads for basically the entire year. I have some fantasy reads, some sci-fi reads. A lot of my reads are thrillers. This is basically Kayla's influence because Kayla introduced me to my first thriller back in December time with One by One by Ruth Ware, and I've been hooked on thrillers ever since, and so I'm really excited to share the thrillers and all of the other books that I'm anticipating for the very first 6 months of 2021. And if you've yet to check out my Twitter nor my Bookstagram, I would highly recommend you go check those out because I post some extra bookish content that you're not gonna see here. Okay, so for the list, I've broken them up into genres, and then I've also broken them up into chronological order so that we can cover everything together and make sure that all genres are covered in their own little sections. So the very first genre that I'm going to be covering is, of course, fantasy, one of my favorite genres I've ever read. And the very first book that I'm anticipating is The Gilded Ones by Namuna Fauna, which releases on February 4th. The Gilded Ones basically follows Deka, whose blood runs gold, and as a consequence she has to join the Emperor's army of the Alaki, near immortals who have exceptionally rare gifts, and because of this, they could be the Empire's only way of defeating their greatest threat. However, Deka soon discovers that there is a secret behind everything and everyone, and the things that she reveals could also reveal things about herself as well. And I'm just super excited about this book because I read a little bit of it way back when I was doing the Usborne Academy, my publishing placement back in 2018. This book is just amazing. Like, the writing was stunning, and I'm just really excited to see how the novel has evolved since then, how the novel has become so much more. The set for this novel reminds me a lot of Raybearer by Joan Ifweko, and so if you liked Raybearer, I think you'd also like The Gilded Ones. So yeah. And then we have Fireheart Tiger by Aliette de Bodad, and that releases on February 9th as well. And it basically follows Tan in this Goblin Emperor meets Howl's Moving Castle in this Vietnamese-esque pre-colonial world, which, exciting. And Tan is basically given to a foreign kingdom as a teenager in order to be lived and raised there. However, she returns back to her home kingdom in order to serve as a diplomat, but as a consequence also comes into contact with her first love, and all these feelings resurface and all these memories come back of the fire that ravaged the foreign kingdom's palace, and so Tan realizes that she must make some dangerous decisions in order to protect her home. And Howl's Moving Castle is one of my favorite Studio Ghibli films, so I'm really excited to see how it transforms in Fireheart Tiger and just seeing those influences. I haven't read Howl's Moving Castle yet by Diana Wynne Jones, but I'm planning to this year, and plus it's sapphic and has magical politics, and so I love those elements in fantasy books, and so I'm really, really intrigued by this plot. And then the next book that I'm then anticipating in the first 6 months is Son of the Storm by Sue Davis of Kumboya, and this releases on May 11th. And it follows a young scholar whose ambition threatens to reshape an empire determined to retain its might. Swept into a conspiracy far beyond his understanding, Danso will not only uncover violent histories suppressed, but also magic lost in lore. And hidden histories and hidden magic are some of my favorite tropes in fantasy, and I just think it's so cool when they discover things and they're just like, what the hell is going on? And they just like panic because they have this magic now and they're just like, oh, I don't know what to do with this, and they can't control it. And then it brings a really good element of like a mentor figure into it, and the cover of this book has a black boy on it and it's just stunning, and I cannot wait to see how Sue Davis of Kumboya brings this kingdom to life. Like, the history is violently suppressed as well, just gives me a lot of like post-colonial criticism vibes, and as a literature student, I'm just really excited about that. So hopefully it'll be able to deliver. The last fantasy book that I'm then anticipating for the first 6 months is The Chosen and the Beautiful by Niveau, and this releases on June 1st. This Great Gatsby retelling basically follows Jordan Baker, who's queer, Asian, and adopted. She is also treated like an exotic attraction by her peers, and although she has money, education, a killer golf handicap, and access to a bunch of lavish parties, the most important doors are still closed to her. However, the world is such a weird and wonderful place with infernal pacts and whimsical magic happening, and an all paper is fire, and Jordan Baker might be able to cut the heart out of a man if she can learn how, and this it's a Great Gatsby retelling, reimagining. I love this, and it's queer, and it's got a person of colour at the forefront of the novel, and I remember writing an essay about the Great Gatsby way back in my 6th form years, and I was talking about the lack of representation in the Great Gatsby because they're just reduced to background characters, and so I'm really excited to see some characters come to the forefront of this. I'm really excited to see the integration of magic in the Great Gatsby, and the Great Gatsby is one of my favourite classic books because I just love the flapper age and like the 20s, and I just think it's going to be so cool to see this. I just have so much confidence because a lot of my friends really love Nevo's writing, and I really want to get into Nevo this year, so I cannot wait to see how The Chosen and the Beautiful acts. I know Elias is really excited for this book as well, and I know Elle also really likes the sound of it. Just seeing this novel come to life as well just makes me a bit emotional because finally we're getting the representation from The Great Gatsby that I've been wanting, especially now that it's coming into the public domain. I think there is just so much that we can do about it. Like, I posted on Twitter like a little while ago about like a Great Gatsby meets Knives Out idea that I had that I might write someday, and I just think it's going to be so cool. The next genre then we're going into is sci-fi, and I really love sci-fi books. Like, I only read 2 last year, so I made it my goal to read a lot more sci-fi this year, and so I have a lot more sci-fi anticipated reads. And I have a few books that I bought recently for my birthday that is coming up soon. Actually, I think it's like 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks away. I'm turning 21 in 2 weeks. But anyway, I'm just really excited to see like more sci-fi on my anticipated reads list. So the very first one that I am anticipating is Remote Control by Nnendi Okorafor, and this releases on January 19th. Well, released on January 19th. And this cover is stunning. Like, the way that we have a black woman on this cover, gorgeous. Beautiful. Wow. And this basically follows Fatima, who one day forgets her name and death pays a visit. And from here on in, she's known as Sankofa, and her touch is death, and her gaze can basically level an entire village. She's alone, apart from her fox companion, and in her search for answers, Sankofa might discover that there could be a greater purpose to her, even though death is a constant companion. Like sci-fi space, death elements, like a little bit of fantastical elements in there, and I just think that it's going to be so tasty to read. Like, I don't know why I'm talking about like books like it's food, but I feel like it's just gonna be such a nice read. Like, Remote Control is a novella, and I'm getting into a lot more novellas this year. Like, Fireheart Tiger is also a novella, and I think that, I don't know, I just like the format of novellas, like where they're short and sweet and kind of contain a lot of story in them. I kind of like that format. And I know Nnendi Okorafor also wrote Binti, which a lot of my friends also rate very highly, so I'm really excited to see like whether Nnendi Okorafor's Remote Control is for me, and then I can go read Binti as well. The next sci-fi book that I'm now anticipating is The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey, and this releases on February 16th. And this has been pitched as Westworld meets Killing Eve, which, if you know me, you know I like Westworld and I like Killing Eve, so seeing the intersection of these both together, amazing, amazing. I cannot wait to see how this novel performs. And this basically follows Martine, who's a genetically cloned replica made from Evelyn Caldwell's research. And Martine is everything that Evelyn is not: gentle, obedient, and she's also got Evelyn's husband in a romantic affair. Until that is Martine kills the husband, and now both wives have to help each other cover up the murder. And it's fine for Evelyn, because Evelyn is used to getting her hands dirty. I'm so excited to like see like the relationship between Evelyn and Martine, and how like both these women just try to like navigate this world where they're both basically the same person but different in personality. And we see that like this kind of similar thing with a lot of video games as well, with Detroit Become Human, and then in TV shows with Westworld and Humans as well. And I'm just really excited to kind of see the thriller aspects come into it as well, because this has been pitched as a sci-fi thriller. Just seeing how like everything unfolds, because I feel like it's going to be quite a twisty-turny novel. And again, the concept for this cover is amazing, and I cannot wait to read it. And then we have The Infinity Courts by Kemi Dawn Bowman, and this releases on April 6th. And basically, in the beginning of her death, Nami Miyamoto wakes up in the Infinity, which is the place where human consciousness goes after the physical body dies. And then she discovers Ophelia, the virtual assistant that is on everybody's phones, rules the afterlife as its queen, and it basically has one goal: to eradicate human existence after the mistreatment that she received on Earth. And so Nami basically doesn't want to die in death, so she has to team up with a bunch of rebels that are hellbent on stopping Ophelia once and for all. And again, this is such a nice concept and reminds me a lot of that Doctor Who episode where the Doctor and Clara have to go save Danny Pink from the afterlife, but then it turns out they're all being turned into Cybermen. So, and I hope something like that doesn't happen with Ophelia, you know? But yeah, I'm just really excited for this. I think that it's just gonna be such a cool concept, especially with the sentient AI Ophelia. Like, sentient AI is such a cool thing in books and also in video games as well, like Portal. And plus the cover, she has a little dagger on her back, and you know how I feel about blades. Like, I love blades on a cover, so I'm really, really excited for that. I think it's just gonna be amazing. I'm just really looking forward to experiencing kind of this life and death aspect, because again, life and death is becoming quite a big theme in my reading this year, because like through Addie LaRue and If Cats Disappear from the World, and then with Remote Control, and now the Infinity Courts, I feel like there's just such a lot of like emphasis on death and life. I think that it's quite interesting that my reading has started to gravitate towards that. The next book that is such a stunning cover, perhaps one of my favourite covers of this year, is The Ones We're Meant to Find by June Hurt, and this releases on May 4th. And this basically follows C, who awoke on an abandoned island 3 years ago. With no idea how she was marooned, she only has a few things: a rickety house, an old android, and also one singular memory, that C has a sister and that she has to find her. On the other hand, Casey wants escape from science and the home that she has known, because people in Eco City, Earth's last habitable place, have become quite rude and mean, and basically people who want sanctuary in Eco City are willing to do anything, even lie, in order to get in. And so Casey must now decide whether she's ready to use the science to help the people, even though it has failed the people that it is needed most. Okay, the first thing, again, the cover was super stunning and I really, really love it. It doesn't give a lot away about the story. Like, it doesn't really relate to the story at all, but like, it gives a kind of concept, and I just like it, I really do. And I think that this novel also reminds me of, this is going to be a very loose connection, but it reminds me of Power Rangers RPM. All the monsters on the outside, and then we had that one domed city that was protected from everyone and everything because of like the AI, again, the AI that destroyed the world. And so I'm just really excited to see how Joan Hur fights for climate activism and how we need to be more active in the way that we care about our planet. I'm really excited to see how like the Eco City breeds a lot of criticism about classism and potentially race-based classism as well, because I am going to theorize the fact that the majority of people in that Eco City are going to be white people. And then the final sci-fi novel that I'm then anticipating is Gearbreakers by Zoe Hanamikuta, and this releases on June 29th. So it literally just got into my anticipated reads for this video, but again, this novel, oh my, So giving the Power Rangers vibes that we got from The Ones We're Meant to Find, this basically takes Power Rangers Megazords and just elevates it to a whole new level. And so basically this follows two girls on opposite sides of the war who then realize they have one common objective, whilst also slowly falling for one another. The shadow of Cordelia's tyrannical rule is spreading, aided by these massive mechanical weapons known as wind-ups. Eris Shinandai is a gearbreaker, a skilled and trained fighter who knows how to take down these wind-ups, and she meets Sona Steelcrest, a cybernetically enhanced pilot who actually pilots the wind-ups and is part of Cordelia's army. And so both of them are basically mortal enemies at first, until Eris realizes that Sona actually infiltrated Cordelia in order to take them down from the inside out. And so both women must work together in order to save everyone. And like, the sapphics in this sci-fi, like, Space Between Worlds was amazing sapphic sci-fi from last year, love that. Gearbreakers might take the place of like my favourite sapphic sci-fi for 2021, who knows, but like, giant mechas, like, wow, I cannot wait. I've just really wanted a mega battle novel for ages with these giant mechas with some LGBT elements, and so I'm really excited that we're getting a sapphic romance in this. Zoe is just such an amazing person, like their booktube is amazing. Gen Z authors slaying the game once again. And then we move on to the romance picks, and I'm just super excited for romance this year. I just think it's going to be such a fun time for me reading romance once again, and I can't wait for my romance reading vlog, which is going live next month. And reading romance really dismantled a lot of the internalized prejudices I held against romance, and because I didn't really think romance would be for me, but then I realized like, oh no, it really is. And I'm just really excited to see what romances bring this year for me. So the very first one that I'm really excited for is Love is a Revolution by Renee Watson, and this releases on February 2nd. And basically this follows Nala, who falls instantly in love with Ty, an activist in the local community. And so Nala, wanting to get close to him, basically tells him a few little lies in order to spend more time with him. However, the lies become harder to keep up, and Nala soon realizes that whilst love is hard, self-love is revolutionary. And this story basically has plus-sized girls where they are the forefront and get the guy. We basically have also the popular girl clique that are not shallow but actually have strong convictions and morals, which I love. And it's just about showing love to yourself as well as showing love to others. And I think the importance of self-love is revolutionary, and I just cannot wait to see how Renee Watson translates self-love in this novel, because I'm of the philosophy that you really need to practice loving yourself, because whilst you can show other people love whilst not loving yourself, I feel like you're your best self and your most important self when you're both loving yourself and also loving someone else. I'm really excited to see Renee Watson's novel take on this, and also I have the arc of this novel, but because of lockdown I can't go get it because it's at uni, and I'm just sad about that, but it means I can still buy the novel when it comes out, and then I'll be able to read it for my romance reading vlog. The next novel that I'm then anticipating is A Pho Love Story by Lone Lee, and this releases on February 9th. And this basically follows two Vietnamese Americans who fall in love and now basically have to navigate their family's age-old feud because they both have rivaling and competing pho restaurants. And so it gives a little bit of forbidden romance vibes and a little bit of like Romeo and Juliet vibes as well. And I've seen some people read this and be really, really excited about it, and so I'm really excited to see like how this love story unfolds. And I'm one for like food descriptions in books, and just I'm hoping this book will make me hungry, and I just can't wait. The next book, which is of no surprise to anyone that I'm anticipating for this year, is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert, and this releases on March 9th. The Brown sisters have taken me on my very first romance journey with Chloe Brown and Danny Brown. I am super excited for Eve Brown. Eve Brown is basically my favourite sister of the three, and she hasn't even had her own novel yet. I haven't read her own novel yet, and so I'm really excited to see Eve's story unfold. Eve is basically a certified hot mess, and after ruining an expensive wedding, her parents finally tell her that it's time for her to grow up. And so she basically tries to get a chef job in a B&B owned by a guy called Jacob. However, she accidentally runs him over after he says no. And so while she says it was on accident, who truly knows what the story was? And so Eve decides that she must help Jacob run the B&B whilst he's in recovery. And whilst things don't always go to plan, Jacob and Eve inevitably become closer and closer until some things manage to happen. And so I'm just really excited for this novel because as well, it says in the synopsis that Jacob always wants control, and so I feel like he's gonna have a lot of control issues. I just think he has some sort of like backstory. There's a reason why we needed to know he's always in control in the synopsis. And so yeah, I'm really excited to see this. I really love the fact that Talia Hibbert emphasizes male mental health in all of her books and emphasizes the need for just knowing when to seek help and when to accept help from others. And so I'm really excited to see how Talia Hibbert continues this in Eve Brown. And so the final romance that I'm then anticipating is one that I already have the arc of, and I'm really excited to read it for my romance reading vlog. So I thought I'd also include it on this list because I know a lot of you will be anticipating it as well. And that is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Now, after reading Red, White and Royal Blue, I just knew I just needed much more of Casey McQuiston's work. Their writing was just amazing and their romance was so sensational that I got so many good vibes from it. And so I'm really excited to see the sapphic romance because I love sapphic romances. And so for cynical 23-year-old August, moving to New York was supposed to prove her right, that things like magic and love stories don't exist. And then she meets Jane, the gorgeous girl on the train that saves her day, and August basically notices two main problems from this. One, Jane basically dresses like a punk rocker from the 1970s with her leather jacket and stuff, but also two, Jane has actually been displaced from the 1970s and has been on a time loop on this train ever since, and so you can just imagine that this romance isn't gonna be easy. They're gonna have to work together in order to solve the issue of this time loop, and August may have to leave her past behind in order to do so. I just think that this novel's gonna be amazing. I think that just the way that it's done is so cool, although I don't think I personally would like to be on a train for about 40 years. maybe even 50. Oh my god, no, it's from the 1970s. Imagine being on a train for 50 years and not knowing. What? Oh god, I wouldn't be able to. I'd like cry. I'd cry. But I don't think she knows she's been on a train for 50 years, so we'll see. And I know Casey McQuiston will not disappoint me when it comes to like a good romance and good writing, so I'm just really excited to see how this unfolds. Although I wonder if Jane can actually get off the train. I don't know, maybe it's the fact that she can get off the train in the morning, but then has to get back on the train at night, otherwise she's like lost forever. I'm theorizing like these things, and I just have no idea if they're actually gonna happen, but anyway, really excited for it, and I cannot wait to see it release on June 1st. And then we're gonna get into my only historical fiction pick for the first 6 months, because it was really hard to like kind of narrow like these books down. So unfortunately I only have one historical fiction pick, but it's such an amazing one, and that is The Forest of Stolen Girls by June He, and this releases on April 20th. And after reading The Silence of Bones last year, I'm just super excited for not only The Forest of Stolen Girls, but also The Red Palace, which releases in 2022. June He's writing is amazing. And basically, The Forest of Stolen Girls follows Juani, whose father vanishes whilst investigating the disappearance of 13 stolen girls. And so Juani decides to return to a secretive hometown in order to pick up the trail. However, while she investigates all these disappearances, she discovers that the similarities between this and her own and her sister's disappearance years ago are very, very much alike. And so she must reconnect with her estranged sister in order to recover the memories that she's lost and hopefully help solve the crime. And they know one thing for sure from the very outset, that the killer wore a white painted mask. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see like kind of how this unfolds, and how this kind of gives me those Joseon vibes that I get from historical Korean dramas. And I just can't wait. I think that it's just gonna be such a really nice novel to read, and I know June He's writing is just so tantalizing and enamoring, and I cannot wait to like experience her world once again. And now we get on to the mystery thriller books for this year. Kayla, if you're watching, this is all you. This is all your impact. This is everything that you've inspired me to read, and so hopefully you don't judge me too much for these picks. There is one that specifically I would want to buddy read with you. Anyway, we're just gonna talk about that later. So the very first book that I am excited for is The Project by Courtney Summers, and this releases on February 2nd, and this is a cult novel. I love cults. Like, not like in that aspect, but I just love researching and learning about cults and the way that the hive mind aspect works. This is why I love The Year of the Witching so much, because it gave me those culty vibes and the kind of collective aspect of like oppression and also prejudice. And so I'm really excited to see kind of how another culty aspect works. And so this basically follows the Unity Project, whose Lo sister B joined years ago and left Lo in the care of her great aunt. However, years later, someone comes saying that the Unity Project has killed their son, and Lo takes the opportunity to investigate it because it means that she can reconnect with her sister, but also try and find her suspicions about the Unity Project come to light, that it's not amazing underneath its benevolent mask. And so while she's investigating, she comes into the contact with the founder, Lev Warren, and slowly but surely her beliefs are starting to be turned upside down, and whilst Lo initially believed that she could not believe in Lev Warren's words, she now doesn't know if she can afford not to, and it just feels like Lo is going to be starting to be converted into the cult. I'm intrigued to see like how this unfolds, and the cover is stunning. I think that it just gives a lot of those like thriller vibes, and yeah, it intrigues me, and so I'm excited for it. The next one that I'm then looking forward to reading is She's Too Pretty to Burn by Wendy Hurd, and this releases on March 30th. And this is a Dorian Gray inspired story, and it follows two best friends, Veronica and Nico, who are artists first and best friends second. However, when Mick arrives on the scene, her and Veronica go into this like romance that is both passionate and also heated. However, it gets a bit too passionate, because then there's murders, fires, and like deaths all abound, and not everyone may survive the summer because of this romance. There's a lot in this synopsis that it gives me, and I'm excited for it because like The Picture of Dorian Gray again is a stunning classic. Like, I wrote an adaptation of it with Dracula for Creative Writing class, and so I'm really excited to see how Wendy Hurd has adapted The Picture of Dorian Gray in her own story and how like the sapphic romance evolves. The next book that we're then getting to is Arsenic and Adobo by me and P. Manasala, and this releases on May 4th. And again, this just gives me like the cutesy mystery vibes that I get from like Murder, She Wrote. This story is filled with killer dishes, as Lila is basically asked to take over her Tita Rosie's restaurant because it is failing, and she is then also receiving pressure from her gossiping aunties about romance and judgment for like certain decisions that she makes. However, when a harsh food critic dies after having an argument with Lila, she kind of has to like investigate because she is pinned as the prime suspect. And so armed with not only a gossiping network of aunties, but also her barista Best Bud and her dog, she is going to solve this tasty case once and for all and find out who the snivelling suspect was that killed the food critic. And I am just super excited for this. I think it's just gonna be amazing. It's gonna give me a lot of those like classic mystery vibes, and I don't know, I think the twists and the turns as well is just gonna be really great, and I cannot wait to see how me and P. Manansala writes this novel and just gives us a fulfilling mystery. The next book that I'm then reading is one that is one of my most anticipated thrillers for the year, and the one that I hope I can read with Kayla, because oh my gosh, it's just gonna be such a thrilling and like slightly scary read, I think, but it's also gonna be really fun. This is The Other Black Girl by Zakia Dahlia Harris, and this releases on June 1st. And this basically pitched as Get Out meets The Devil Wears Prada, and I love that comparison. I think like it's just gonna be such a good novel, and it basically follows two women who meet under the snarkly white backdrop of New York City publishing. And so Nella is excited when Harlem-born and bred Hazel starts working at the publishing house, and so both of them really get along quite well. However, a sequence of events occurs that elevates Hazel to a higher social standing, and that's where the messages start on Nella's desk. Leave Wagner now. Whilst Nella initially doesn't want to believe that Hazel is the one behind the messages, she starts to spiral and soon discovers that it's not only her career that's at stake here. It gives me like, I don't know, I just feel like uncomfortable whilst reading that, like the good uncomfortable, because I feel like it's gonna be like a really, really, really good commentary on both the glass ceiling and systematic oppression, but also just like kind of how the workplace doesn't welcome black people except if they want the token person of color. Just a lot of like good commentary about just the way the industry really tokenizes and takes advantage of people of color, and I'm just really excited for that. I think it's just gonna be amazing and stunning. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it. And so our penultimate thriller for our anticipated reads is Ace of Spades by Frida Abike Iminde, and this releases on June 10th. And in this Get Out meets Gossip Girl inspired novel, anonymous texter Aces is releasing information about the school's only two black students. And so Devon, a talented musician, and Chiamaka, the school's head girl, must work together in order to dismantle Aces once and for all, as it's not only their reputations that it's at stake here, but also their lives as well. And I'm reading this at the moment amongst like the other three novels that I'm reading, like multiple reading, who am I? But it's amazing. I love the writing style of this, and I just can't wait to discover what happens next. I think that Farida just has such a stunning voice, and the way that she conveys things is beautiful, and so I cannot wait to read the rest of this novel and just see how it plays out. Just add this to your TBR, like if you take anything from this video, add Witches Steeped in Gold and add Ace of Spades, because and The Other Black Girl, because those are three novels that you do not want to miss out on this year. And then finally, my last thriller, we have Eat Your Heart Out by Kelly DeVos, and this releases on June 29th. So again, it just got in there just about. And this follows Vivian Ellenshaw, who's fat, but doesn't think that's a problem, and she's right in that. And she doesn't like it when she's forced into a weight loss camp van along with a bunch of other people, including the camp owner's son. And so things start to unfold at the camp, which is slightly sus. A child goes missing, and also the camp's miracle cure isn't all as it seems. And so whilst the campers start to investigate, they soon discover that the camp is actually being overrun by zombie invaders, and not all the campers will survive. Like, I was reading the synopsis and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool, like, where's the thriller? And then it just turns to the zombie, like, horror aspect, and I was just like, that was a turn I didn't expect, but immediately it just gave me a really good vibe for this novel. And I think that as well with the fat rep that we're getting in this book, I just think it's gonna be amazing because we do need more plus size protagonists in fiction. I just think it's gonna be such an amazing way to convey body positivity in this novel, and so I cannot wait to read Eat Your Heart Out, and I cannot wait to see how like the zombies interact and just evolve this story into like such a good horror thriller. And so finally, we're closing off this anticipated reads with one book that is a middle grade. So Gavin, if you're watching, I hope you're proud. And it's just one that I have recently read and is amazing. And I'm putting it on my most anticipated because once I heard about it, I knew I wanted to read it right away. And that is Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow by Benjamin Dean. And this releases on February 4th. So if you're watching, this releases next week. So get on that. And this basically follows Archie Albright, whose things aren't going so well for him as his mother and father father are arguing all the time, and they're basically splitting up, and he doesn't know why, until he discovers a rainbow leaflet falling out of his dad's pocket, and so he believes he might find the answer at the end of the rainbow. To do so, he's gonna have to team up with his best friends and also break a few rules, and this novel was just so heartwarming. I'm getting emotional. This novel was just so heartwarming, and Archie's voice was just so amazing, and the way that he sees the world is just so pure and positive. He reminds me a lot of myself as a kid when I was like juggling my own identity and the way that I felt about the world, and just seeing the way that he is so open about things and the way that he is just so like, just the way he sees the world is beautiful, and this novel gave me so many warm and good vibes, and it's really a novel that everyone should read. Yeah, go pick up Me, My Dad and the End of the Rainbow. And so to close off the video, I'm going to be mentioning my top 21 honourable mentions that I have for the first 6 months of 2021. These are anticipated reads that I'm really looking forward to, but I couldn't fit them into the 21 of 21. So I hope you enjoy. And so we have Happily Ever Afters, Concrete Rose, Amari and the Night Brothers, A History of What Comes Next, What Big Teeth, Honey Girl, Clara and the Sun, Firekeeper's Daughter, The Unbroken, Lost in the Neverwoods, Witches Steeped in Gold, The Last Fallen Star, Meet Cute Diary, Counting Down with You, Blackwater Sister, Off the Record, Made in Korea, Honey and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating, The Maidens, Bloodline Magic, and finally we have Darling. And so I am just really excited for all of those novels. I think each and every one is amazing, and I don't know, I just think 2021 is just going to give such good vibes, and as well I'm really looking forward to boosting and hyping these books up, and I hope that you will do so as well. And so yeah, that is basically everything, and I'm just like, if you have any anticipated reads for this year that I have listed or I haven't listed, leave those down in the comment section down below. And if you have any suggestions for novels for the latter part of 2021 that I should basically mention in the next video, let me know, because I want to try and hype up as many books as possible. And so yeah, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, be sure to click that subscribe button so that you're notified whenever I upload next. This week's shout out fates goes out to Trin, Sandy and Tiffany, the hosts of St. Vladimir's Read Along, a Vampire Academy and Bloodlines read along that is spanning the entire year, I think. And so I'm really excited to be guest starring in their very first live show discussing Vampire Academy. And so I'll leave the live show link and also their channels in the description down below for you to go watch. I'll leave my social media links in the description down below, and that is everything. I am just having so much fun with all of this, and I cannot wait to see all of the books and all of the reading vlogs that I have in 2021 with these books, and I hope that you're excited to come along with me as well. And so yeah, I guess until the next video. Bye friends.